Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive here on the A of Think channel. Great to have you tuning in. So let's jump right in. Have you ever just kind of stopped and thought about how much data is actually out there, like right now, and maybe more pointedly, how much of it is about you?
hmm
It can almost feel like the world isn't just physical things anymore, but also these massive, invisible rivers of information flowing all around us.
That feeling is spot on. That sense of data being absolutely everywhere. It's really the core theme we found in the material for today. It's not just tucked away in databases anymore.
Right, it's pervasive. So our mission today really is to unpack that. How did we get swamped with all this data? What does it actually look like? And crucially, what role does it play, especially with AI?
Mm.
Sometimes it feels a bit misunderstood.
Okay, sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
Let's start with the sheer scale then. The material really hammers home this idea that we're basically swimming in a giant ocean of data.
It definitely feels like that sometimes. And the main engine driving this flood, that would be the big data revolution, right?
Exactly. The material defines big data pretty clearly as, well, these incredibly large, complex sets of computer data. We're talking volumes so massive, so intricate, that the older software, the traditional tools, they just couldn't keep up.
Can handle it.
Yeah, just overwhelmed. And there's this great analogy in the source material. Think of the internet as this enormous data factory.
Okay.
It's just constantly running, churning out unbelievable amounts of new data every single day. Nonstop production.
A nonstop data factory? That paints quite a picture. So if this factory is constantly producing, we're swimming in its output, what kind of data is making up most of this deluge?
Well, a really significant portion, maybe even the majority of this boom, is in what's called unstructured data.
Unstructured. Okay, so how does that differ from, say, structured data?
Right, so structured data is the neat stuff. Think spreadsheets, database tables, everything in tidy rows and columns. Unstructured data, it just lacks that clear, predefined format.
Gotcha. So more free form. What are some examples?
Yeah, exactly. Examples given are things like video files, audio recordings from calls or podcasts, images, and just plain free text.
Like emails, social media stuff.
Precisely. Emails, posts, documents. If it doesn't fit neatly into boxes, it's probably unstructured.
And a lot of this presumably comes directly from us, from what we do every day.
That's the key point. A huge amount flows directly from our online interactions, our daily activities. And this is where it gets really personal
Mm-hmm.
because a significant chunk of it reflects, actual human activity, our feelings, experiences, even our relationships.
Okay, let's make that more concrete. The material gave some specific examples of this personal data.
That did. We're talking about things like huge databases of faces and facial expressions, often scraped from social media. Stuff that could potentially reveal gender, age, emotions, maybe even preferences.
Wow.
And then there's all the personal, medical, and biometric data from wearables, smartwatches tracking heart rate, sleep, steps.
Yeah, my watch knows more about my sleep than I do sometimes.
Exactly. Plus all the info about how we interact online, what we search for, what we like, captured by social media and search engines, even online shopping.
Oh, yeah.
Every click, every item you linger on, every review you write, it's all logged, all data.
It's incredible. So it's not just abstract numbers, it's detailed logs of our lives. And the material mentioned, this is different from, say, old scientific data like weather patterns.
Yeah, it drew a contrast.
Yeah.
Scientists have always dealt with large data sets, like in astronomy or meteorology. But the difference now is both the sheer scale and the type. This explosion of personal, unstructured data is really what's new and defining.
And this sheer abundance, it changes how we view data itself, doesn't it? It gives it a new kind of status or value.
Absolutely. The value isn't just in the raw facts anymore, like maybe an old sales record. The real value now comes from how you process it, how you use it to create something new, insights, predictions, services.
Which brings us to that metaphor, the material highlighted data as the new oil.
Yeah, it's a really powerful comparison. Like crude oil, raw data holds immense potential value. It can, fuel new industries, make companies incredibly wealthy.
But there's a catch.
There's a big catch. Just like with oil, raw data, straight out of the ground or the factory, isn't immediately useful. It takes significant skill and effort to refine it, to transform it into something valuable, like gasoline or plastics. You can't just pour crude oil into your car.
Right, it needs processing. Okay, so if data is this abundant new oil everywhere, does having tons of it automatically mean you've got great AI? Like, does more data just equal better machine learning?
That's a super important question, and the material is really clear on this. While having lots of data is absolutely fundamental for modern AI, especially machine learning,
Mm.
I mean, ML literally learns from data.
Mm-hmm.
Just having a lot of data is explicitly not enough. It's not sufficient for successful AI.
Ah, okay. So the raw material alone doesn't cut it. Why not?
Because raw data is messy. It rarely fits the specific structured requirements that algorithms need to actually work properly. It needs quite a bit of work. It has to be manipulated and shaped, as the source puts it.
Manipulated and shaped.
Yeah. And there's another good analogy used. The data needs to be manicured. Like tidying up your nails, you need to clean and shape the data so it's ready.
Manicured data. I like that. It suggests care and precision. So even with this massive supply, there's this essential middle step.
Absolutely essential. Data might be plentiful, but it's the processes and the algorithms applied to it that make it genuinely useful for AI, that whole preparation process. That's data analysis.
And did the material break down what data analysis actually involves? What are those steps?
It did. It described data analysis as involving several key steps. Things like cleaning the data, getting rid of errors, filling in gaps, fixing inconsistencies, then formatting it, getting it into the right structure for the algorithm, also visualizing it, which helps humans spot patterns or problems, and finally modeling it, which is often where the machine learning techniques come in.
And this whole analysis pipeline, it's non-negotiable.
Pretty much. The material stresses that without this preparation, the data just won't work correctly with the AI algorithms you want to use. Modern AI, as we understand it today, would basically be impossible without this careful data analysis making the raw stuff usable. Algorithms need clean fuel.
Okay, so abundance plus careful analysis equals potential for AI. But, with so much data flying around, especially the personal, unstructured kind, what about the quality? That must be a huge issue.
Oh, it's a massive challenge, and the material definitely flags data quality as a major hurdle. One big problem is simply missing data.
Gaps in the information.
Exactly. AI models often need a complete picture to work well. If key pieces are missing, the analysis can be flawed, the conclusion's wrong, or sometimes whole chunks of data just become useless.
Makes sense, like trying to solve a puzzle with half the pieces missing.
Right. And maybe even trickier is the issue of mistruths in the data. Humans are actually pretty good, relatively speaking, at navigating opinions, biases, maybe slight distortions of fact. Current AI, not so much. It really struggles to detect and handle those kinds of nuances.
Mistruths. Okay, that sounds problematic. Are we just talking about outright lies?
It's broader than just lies. The material actually broke it down into 5 different types, which is quite interesting.
5 types. Okay, let's hear them.
All right, first is commission, basically, inserting false facts, deliberate falsehoods.
Okay.
Second is omission, leaving out crucial details, which can be just as misleading.
Right, distorting by silence.
Exactly.
Mm.
Third is perspective. This one's tricky. Different people see the same event differently, right?
Yeah.
Averaging those subjective views into one objective truth is hard, maybe impossible. And the material actually suggests this is potentially the most dangerous type for AI.
Perspective. Why is that one the most dangerous, do you think?
Well, AI is often looking for consistent patterns, assuming a single underlying reality in the data. Human perspective introduces subjectivity, context, nuance, things AI finds incredibly hard to model or reconcile, especially if it's trying to find one answer.
That makes sense. It messes with the clear patterns. Okay, what were the other 2?
Number 4 is bias. So our own personal filters, our prejudices, coloring how we report or record information, blocking out parts of the truth.
Unconscious or conscious.
Yep. And finally, number 5 is frame of reference. This is about misunderstanding something because you lack the shared background or experience to interpret it correctly. And the material makes a really crucial point here. Current AI will always struggle with frame of reference because it fundamentally cannot create or possess genuine human-like experiences. It hasn't lived life,
It doesn't have our context, our history.
Okay.
And this limitation, the struggle with mistruths, bias, perspective, does it point to a deeper issue about whether AI actually understands the data?
That's precisely the core issue. It's the fundamental reason why just having oceans of data doesn't automatically create human-level intelligence. The material is very explicit. All current AI is what's known as weak AI or narrow AI.
Weak AI, what's the key distinction there?
The absolute key difference is that current AI doesn't have genuine understanding. It doesn't comprehend the data or the world in the way humans do with consciousness or cognition.
So what does it do then?
What it is incredibly good at, truly powerful at, is manipulating and analyzing numbers and patterns that exist within the data it's given. It finds correlations, structures, frequencies.
But it doesn't get the why or the so what.
Exactly. It can spot the pattern and report it, but it doesn't comprehend its meaning or implications in a deeper sense. It lacks human intuition, that gut feeling, the ability to kind of read between the lines or see beyond the data points.
And the material mentioned, it can't really create new things.
Right. It can't generate truly novel ideas or data itself. It can remix, recombine, create variations based on its training data, but it's not originating concepts from scratch. And it's also easily fooled if you give it something just slightly outside what it was trained on.
That distinction between pattern matching and real understanding feels critical. Okay, let's try and pull this all together then. Where does this leave us?
Okay, synthesizing from the material. We started with this idea. Data is absolutely everywhere, incredibly abundant. It's the essential fuel, the new oil for modern AI, especially machine learning.
Right, step one, the massive resource exists.
But step two, and just as important, is that this abundance isn't enough on its own. The raw data must be meticulously prepared, cleaned, analyzed, manicured using algorithms before it's actually useful.
So raw potential needs significant refinement.
Huge refinement. And then the final key insight, the sort of capstone, is that even if you have tons of perfectly clean manicured data, current AI still has fundamental limits. It works on math and patterns. It lacks real human understanding. It struggles with our biases and perspectives, and it has no lived experience or intuition.
So the big takeaway seems to be data is vital, it's everywhere, yes, but its actual value and impact depend massively on its quality, and even more so on how we process it using algorithms, which themselves aren't magic. They have inherent limitations tied to their lack of true understanding.
Couldn't have said it better. Data is necessary for today's AI, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's far from the whole story, and it's definitely not the sole ingredient for anything resembling real intelligence.
Wow, that really reframes things. This vast ocean of data, so much of it reflecting us, our lives,
Yeah.
its power is completely tied up in how well we can clean it and what our current tools, our AI, can actually do with it, given their limits.
It definitely leaves you with a lot to chew on. Thinking about how much of this data is deeply human, full of perspective, bias, context, and knowing that our current AI tools basically just see the numbers and patterns without grasping that human element. Well, what does that really mean for how we should use AI, especially for decisions impacting people's lives?
That's a heavy question. Or maybe, flipping it around, how can we, just as individuals navigating this world, get better at seeing both the power and the pitfalls of all this data, understanding the limits of the tools interpreting it for us? Something to definitely keep in mind as we all, generate more data just by living our lives.
It's a complex world we're building, for sure.
And on that reflective note, that brings us to the end of this particular deep dive. We really hope this discussion gave you some valuable things to think about regarding the data that shapes so much of our modern experience.
Thanks for joining us and thinking through this with us.
Yeah, thank you. If you found this useful or interesting, maybe share it with someone else who'd appreciate it. And please do subscribe to the AI of Think channel so you catch our next deep dive. We look forward to exploring more with you again very soon.